Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today again. And today again we will be talking about best practices in one particular sphere of modern Java development. And today we will concentrate on developing REST services. As well as in the previous hour live coding, we already have some bad codes that we will try to improve today. As always, I would kindly ask you to press likes. It really helps. And if you like our video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, I remind you that you can ask your questions or leave your comments in the comment section on YouTube or via community platform. And without further talks, I'm passing the word to Ivan.
Yep, thanks. So, hi everyone. Today we will talk about REST. We will show you simple REST API with a lot of issues, with a lot of design mistakes, and we will try to fix them, discuss them, and make our REST API better. Okay, so I hope that you can see my screen, and here is our simple description of our today task. So we have a simple student API. Student has just 6 fields. ID, which actually should be generated by us, by server side. First name, last name, email, password, and age. Um, just, just a little note here. Of course, validation should be supported. Validation is important, and we will talk about it maybe in the end. And we should support just 2 operations: create new student and get student by ID. So let's check our initial version. I hope that you can see this student endpoint class. So we have endpoint, which is called endpoint. We have some service. This service is actually just a mock. I can show you. So nothing special here. No database calls. We have just map where ID is the key and value is student itself, and we can add it to the map and get student by ID. Okay, so back to endpoint, we have one handle method. This method accepts student request. And this is post method. So all our operations will be handled by this method. So we have only post operations. Okay, so let's check student request. I'm using Lombok, by the way. So yeah, just these student fields, right? And one field which is called operation. So this is metadata field, let's say. And by checking this operation, I'm doing different stuff. So if operation is create, we will create student and pass it to the service and make a special response with the message student has been created. If operation is find by ID, we will try to find this student, return 200 in our object response if student has been found, and 400 if student has not been found. And if operation is unknown, we will just return unknown operation and status code 500. Okay, so let's check if it works, if it actually works. So yeah, as you can see, localhost endpoint, which is called endpoint. Let's try to create this pretty user, pretty student.
If you
Yeah,
didn't start,
I forgot the most important thing. Okay, let me. Okay, just start it. Okay, seems like it's started. Let me go to the presentation mode. Okay.
I think you can run it with Control Shift F10 without exiting. But yeah, okay.
Okay,
So
okay.
it works.
Yeah, so it works. Student has been created. We can see all student fields here, right? We can try, so yeah, we can try operation find by ID with ID 1. As we can see, ID was 1, and student has been found. If we will try 2, student not found. If we try something strange, mistype, let's say, and let's say ID1, unknown operation. Okay, so everything is working, but it looks ugly. So let's try to improve it. So how can we start? What think we should fix first? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to improve the code when it's in a single method. So just for the very beginning, I would start by splitting it into two operations.
Okay, so are you talking about two HTTP operations? Right?
Yeah. So two endpoints, two mappings.
Okay. So we will return our special student response. Yet I right?
Yeah, let's leave it post request for now. Just we can
Okay,
split it.
okay. So in this case, it will be student request. Yeah, different endpoint, or how should we do it?
Yeah, I think if you leave it with the same URL, it will not start. So we have to specify
Yeah, let's say I don't know.
/get by ID.
Okay. So then maybe I will. Here I will add create. So in this case, we don't need operation, right? So maybe
Yeah,
I will remove operation here, right? Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's leave it here, right?
yeah. It will be the part of this method. The second if goes to the second method, and the third one we can just remove it.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, you have to rename the variable.
Yeah. And this is request body, right? Okay. Did we forget?
No, I think it's an okay first step.
Okay, let me just rerun it. Okay. Let's check if it actually works. Maybe some errors. Seems okay. Okay, so it should be
endpoint/create.
Yes.
And
Let's
you can
check.
remove the operation field.
Right.
Yeah, by default in Java object mapper, it just ignores the unknown fields, so you can add
Yes.
any fields. So it works, but you can change it if you don't like it.
Okay, so let's check. Okay, student has
Yeah.
been found. I actually executed it twice, so yep. So now we have 2 Johns. Okay, everything is working, but yeah, this was just the first step. So what should we do next? So actually, I don't like this endpoint. So let's make it better. It should be a noun. It should be students, right? And
Yeah, I would change the
mhm.
HTTP method that we're using for get user by ID
Okay.
and get
Yep.
student.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
You actually can use post requests for everything, but it's considered the best practice to use appropriate requests. And one of the reasons, like the first reason, is readability. It's obvious, and also, for example, your client's browser can cache requests if they are GET requests. So if someone tries to get the same student twice, you will get actually only one request, and you need less servers to serve these requests.
Yep. And let me
Okay,
just.
and yeah, actually, instead of passing a full body with a student ID, we will pass just an ID in a URL. And why do we need a student request?
I just don't want to waste time fixing a service. Okay, so
Yeah,
let's
but
just.
your find by ID, it accepts long ID already, so you can just you pass their student request dot get ID, so it accepts long.
Yeah, but now I don't have student request.
But you can remove the student request and just pass the ID directly.
Yes. Sorry, my bad.
Less
I
code.
thought that find by ID accepts student request. Yeah. Sorry, my bad. Okay. So students. So I don't need this create word actually, right? So post mapping student requests. So yeah, we can check it out, right?
Yeah, let's check. And yeah, usually when you create RESTful services, it's common to make URLs only with nouns. So here we have students.
Yep.
Nouns should be in how is it called, multiple
Plural
form,
in plural in
plural.
plural.
Yeah, and yeah, usually just a simple post mapping. It's endpoint to create an entity, and
Yep.
simple get with ID. It's for get an entity by ID.
Okay, so now it will look like this. Let's check it out. Okay, seems like it's working. Now let's switch to get students one,
First,
and
yeah.
we don't need body. Everything is in our URL, and the student has been found. Let's
Yeah,
try to student not found.
yeah, cool. It
Okay,
works.
okay. It's
Mm,
actually much better, I'd say.
yeah, another tiny tip: if you're using get mappings, don't use a request body with them. Because some libraries, for example, Postman, they support the body, but well, it's not a part of the standard, so not all libraries are required to be able to pass a body in the GET request.
Yep. Totally agree. Don't use request body in get mapping. Yeah, it actually, let's say maybe it's a kind of a hint. Maybe you need to use request body. Maybe you don't need to use get mapping, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so next step. What is the next step? Actually, I don't like that we are seeing password. So if I do this call again, so we can see password here, right? And I think this is
Yeah.
bad.
Even if
We
it
should
is
hide it.
encrypted.
Yeah. So you definitely should not return password to the client.
Let's try
So-
to fix it in incorrect way. After in get by ID method, after calling the service, we can call student dot set passwords and pass null there. So just remove the password from this entity, and
Okay.
it will actually work. Oh yeah, actually we should check it. It will crash if the student doesn't exist, so you have to move this line inside the if.
Yeah.
And
Good catch.
yeah, why is this approach bad? Well, it's bad because you will forget to do it. Maybe with the password you will remember, maybe with the first 10 endpoints you will remember, but then one day you will forget to remove one field, and it will be a disaster for you, probably.
Yep, totally agree. So let's create our John again, and let's try to get John, and password is null.
Yeah.
So it's kind of working.
Yeah, let's implement it in another way right now.
Yeah, so actually I would prefer to introduce data transfer object. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the best approach from my point of view.
So instead of returning student, we will return a special class which is called pattern is called data transfer object, and these data transfer objects won't have password field itself. So we just don't need to worry about it. And let's fix student endpoint. So from now we want to return student DTO.
Yeah, and we also need some mapping.
Yes. So let's do it in a long way. Let's say so. Student, we have student DTO, right? And student DTO doesn't have password field, right? But we still need to pass password during post request. We have student request. So actually it's kind of DTO itself. So let me rename it to be consistent. So I would call it student create DTO. Select all. Okay. And we will use another service which will accept student DTO and student create DTO, and let's just
So probably in a real application
student letters.
it will work a bit differently, but right now we're just trying to make it compile.
Okay, just wait a second. So I will I have prepared this service, so let me just
And when you create DTOs, you can create multiple DTOs for the same domain model. So you can create DTO when you create a domain model, when you get it, when you update it, and add there only the fields that are required. And it can be the case that these sets of fields are totally different, and you end up with different DTOs, and without them it would be really difficult to manage it. So this is one of the approaches that help you to write shorter code. So yeah, here as I see, we have a service that accepts a student creates DTO and returns the
Yeah,
student
sorry,
DTO itself.
I mixed it up. I bet. Second. Should be like this. Okay, so now it should accept student create DTO and get us student DTO. Here also, let's remove it, and student vector service will return student DTO. Okay, so I will remove
Yeah,
this whole service.
and we should specify the generic type in the constructor.
Yeah. So,
and where did our status codes go? I don't see them there. So we had like response dot set status code.
yeah, so actually, maybe we have not covered this topic yet. We can rely on HTTP status code, right? So Spring Boot. So yeah, I'm using Spring Boot application, by the way. So Spring Boot will return 200 if there were no mistakes, and we can specify which status code we should return. But by default, it will be 200. If something goes wrong, we can change status code, and we will show you how to do it later. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's check our service. So I'm accepting create DTO. I'm mapping to student.
Yeah, and you can do this mapping by hand, or you can use some libraries. For
Yes,
example,
like
Mapstruct. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes.
probably the most popular one. And yeah.
Okay, so seems like we are ready. Did I miss anything?
I don't see any mistakes right now. And yeah, about the status codes, I wanted to say that I have never seen anyone writing all the endpoints within one URL like we had in the very beginning. So it's like the very bad situation that you will probably never see. But I have seen a lot of jokes about returning the status codes as a field, not relying on the HTTP status codes. So it may be the thing that you see in real life, and yeah, you should know that it's not a best practice at all.
Okay, so let's check it out. Students post. Let's do it, and we can see JSON object with all necessary fields without any password null description, and we can see this status 200 standard response for successful HTTP requests. So everything is fine. Let's switch to get method, and yeah, let's check it out. And yep, again,
Also works.
no password 200. Seems like everything is correct.
Let's try to maybe get the second user.
Okay.
What will we see?
Oh, we will see 500. So why? Let me check my logs. So yeah, we have null pointer exception. Okay.
So you get the user by ID from your map, and then you from the database, and then you start mapping it without checking if it's null or not. So
yeah. So yeah, let's talk about exception handling then, right? So exception handling is a very important topic, and first of all, you should specify your own exceptions. So here, The actual issue is that there is no student with ID 2. So let's say student is not found, right? So I will introduce student not found exception, and we will throw this exception in such cases. Let's extend runtime exception. What constructions do we need? Let's say, I don't know,
Let's just have a string. Okay.
Just string. Okay.
About extending the runtime exception, I would say that it's better to have your own top level
Hierarchy?
exception. Yeah, so like student service exception and then extend this one. So in some cases, it's much easier to handle your own exception and separate them from the JVM defined exceptions. But now, just to save some time, we will extend the runtime exception directly. It's not a big mistake.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's check what will happen. Let me rerun my application. I should probably, yeah, let's do it right away.
Yeah, I see a question in the chat. Is it better to return to one code after student creates it? Maybe. I think we will return to it a little bit later.
Okay, so as you can see, now we have not null pointer exception, but student not found exception. But nothing really changes for our client. still 500, right? So let's introduce exception handler. We can do it in two ways, either or in student endpoint. Oh, by the way, student endpoint.
Yeah,
I would say, yeah. Let's rename it student. Okay, so yeah, I can try to do it here, or I can try to do it in exception handler. So should we try both ways?
Yeah, let's
okay.
Maybe not run it, but just show how to.
Yeah. Okay, so here we will return a special Spring entity, which is called response entity. And what about exception message? Let's say for now, I will return just string. Let's name this method handle student not found exception. And the only parameter is exception itself, right? So we should annotate this method, the special annotation exception handler, and pass student and found exception.class here. So now here we should handle the exception. We will return
when some endpoint in this particular controller throws this exception, instead of handling it with a default way by returning 500, Spring will call these methods, and actually we can do there whatever we want.
Okay, so I will just return exception message. Let's check it.
Yeah, for now we stick with the same 500.
Yes, intentionally. Yes. Okay, so let me try. Okay, so now we can see just this message. So from both perspective, from the client perspective and server perspective, I personally think that it's better, because this exception tells exactly what happened and what is wrong. But yeah, status 500 is not correct here, I would say.
Yeah, before going to the status,
Yeah.
I don't really like the format of the response. So, in my opinion, if you return JSON, you should always return JSON. And here we can return
Yeah,
the.
yeah, yeah. Actually, totally agree. So my approach will be to introduce a special entity for that. Okay.
Yeah. And if
So
you don't want to introduce an entity, you can return a map from string to object, and in the JSON it will look exactly the same.
yeah. So I will return some special code. It's not related to HTTP status code. Okay. Actually, I would say it's a common practice if we are talking about microservices to return a special error code, and your client microservice will know what to do with a specific exception, with a specific
Well,
error.
maybe they don't know, but you can see it in the logs, and it's much simpler to debug when they come to you and say, "We
Yeah,
had an
yeah, yeah.
exception number 23548," and you just search for it, and you can simply find the place in your code where it was thrown.
Yes, yes, yes. Also,
And yeah,
no
some
problem.
message to describe what happened. Yeah, on my previous project, I remember we had one page with all the exception codes so that all the services of the client can return.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this page on the Confluence, it took a long time to load because there were like thousands of these response codes, but it was really easy to debug.
Yep. So let's return some special code. Let it be like this, and still message. Okay.
And we can change the HTTP status.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, what should be correct status here? Actually, I would say that if we can't find user, let it be not found.
Yeah, so here the
Found.
problem is with the client's request. So it's not our server failed something, but the client sent us the wrong request. And
Yes.
so because of it, we should return the for something status code. If you don't
Yes.
know what
Yes.
to
Yes.
return, you can return just 400. And but yeah, for this special case, there is 404 not found, and we should return it definitely. You can
Okay.
return 418. I think it's called I'm a teapot. It's a great status code, and I really would like to return it one day, but this day hasn't yet come.
Okay. So now, as you can see, now we have JSON itself. So yeah, actually JSON much better. So, and we still have this message about wrong ID, and status is now correct. Status is 404.
Yeah, there may be a question why the JSON is better than just returning the string. In general, the services or maybe the front end that makes requests to your service, they expect JSON back. So they whatever you return, they try to parse it as JSON and then do something with it. And if you
Yes,
just
yes, yes.
return a string, they will fail and they will have to handle it somehow.
Yes, 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 totally agree. Okay, okay, so what else? What else do we have?
Let's return another code when we create a user.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
in my opinion, returning 200 is okay. I wouldn't mind, but probably 201 is better because it's called its status code created. So we not just return that everything is cool, but like we say, everything is cool, and we created an entity that you wanted.
Yeah. Let me
And you're
just
trying to
check.
recall what annotation can be used for it.
Yeah.
Response
Just,
packets, I think.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Just value.
I think yes.
Okay. HTTP statements. Create.
Uh,
Okay.
if you don't want to use annotation, you can return the response entity and
Yes, like we did
create
it
it with
here.
specific, yeah.
Yeah. So actually like this, but instead of error entity, it would be student detail. Okay, let's run it.
Yeah, and we have a question. Should we always make custom exceptions instead of throwing the default ones? How do you think?
Well, actually, my answer is yes. Yes. Custom exceptions, again, they are, mm, let's say, from logging perspective, from I don't know, mm,
Yeah,
if you
they're
want
very
to, if you want
specific.
to, yeah, they are very specific, and I knew some production cases when service behavior should be different in case of different exception. So sometimes you should throw specific exception because some logic can be based on it. So yeah,
Yeah, and
always throw specific exceptions.
if you throw just like, I don't know, IO exception, like very common, and in your application, I don't know, 300 places can throw this exception starting from sockets, database, JSON parser, and if you see it in the logs, you will not understand from where it appeared. And
Yeah.
maybe the stack trace will be cut and it's hard to debug. And if we have our specific user not found exception, we can search the projects where this exception can be thrown. We will see maybe 3 or 5 places, and it's much easier to debug.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, as we can see, 201 here,
Hooray.
everything is actually created. Next topic, let's talk about this method again. So actually, it's not the best place, I would say, to place such method because yeah, there is a special class for that. Let's say, actually, I always name it global exception handler. Maybe there is a better name for that. But
Yeah,
these are
if we
things.
handle exceptions as we have it now, this exception handling works only for this controller. And if we throw the same exception from another controller, it will result in 500 and maybe a stack trace to the user.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
yeah, sorry, and as a backup, you can place exception here. Okay, so this controller device works in a similar way how try catch mechanism works. So from child to parent. So if something unexpected happened and there is no exception handler for that, this exception handler will work.
Yeah, and you should always add catch all exception handling. For example, you can log something here, maybe
Yeah.
return. Uh, Well, yeah, I think if you didn't catch the exception, you should return 500, but it should be a very rare case. But yeah, at least you can log the exception and not to show the stack trace for the user so he can understand how
Yes.
to hack your system.
Okay, so now let's check it out again just to make sure that everything still works. Everything still works. Yep. So okay. So I actually think that that's it for exception handling for today. So maybe we can move on. And in the very beginning, I was talking about validation. So actually, it's not good that client can just, I don't know, forget to pass last name for us. So let's check what will happen. So last name is null. So that's not good. It's not good. So
Yeah, and maybe
we
with the
can,
last name, it's not a big problem, but with the password.
yeah, indeed. So as we already know, we are creating our student using student create detail, and we can. Oh, yeah, one more thing. As I said earlier, we can remove ID here because ID should be created on our side, so we don't need ID here. Okay, so using Spring Boot Starter validation, I can place some annotations here. Size. Let it be 100.
Yeah, these JAVAX annotations, they have a lot of built-in validation annotations, and you can create your own. So, for example, if some field that you accept should be email from your domain, you can create your own validation annotation and the class that will validate actually the logic. And here we are using the default, so the simplest
Yes, yes.
annotations. And yeah, I think we can just use not nulls to show it. Oh, yeah, I recalled. I wanted to highlight the thing about the exception handling. It works, but it doesn't always work. This controller advice, it works perfectly when the request reaches your controller. So if something goes wrong with your service, controller, database, it will catch and everything will be okay. But before the request reaches the controller, it passes through a bunch of filters, and any of these filters can reject the request. And there is a common use case for that. It's authentication, authorization, and
Yep,
everything like
yep.
that. And if your user doesn't have enough rights to view the controller, he will not get a response from the controller advice. You have to handle it separately. It's well, it's easy to understand why it works like that, but I don't like that it works like that. And if you don't know this about this problem, you will spend several hours trying to debug it. And yeah, I
Yep,
did
yep.
so a few years ago, and now I remember it.
Okay, okay. So as you can see, I have added some basic validation. Let's see how it works in Postman. So let's try to repeat our request. Okay.
You didn't place valid annotation.
Yeah, yeah. Good catch, good catch. Yep.
And actually, did you configure everything for the validation, or does
Yeah,
it
yeah,
work
yeah,
just
yeah,
from the
yeah.
box?
Yeah, it should work out of the box.
Okay.
But yeah, let's check. Maybe it won't work. But
Yeah, so if you want your Spring Boot application or Spring application to validate your entities, you have to place a valid annotation on the method parameter argument, and yeah, hooray, it works.
yeah, so and as you can see, uh, if we didn't place this exception handler, it will be just stack trace for client, right? But now we can see that, yeah, something unexpected happened. Maybe we should add more proper exception handler for such situation, for such
Yeah,
case.
for validation, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we can actually try it on age. But let's just. Oh, I just want to check age.
Yeah, and you can write your custom validation, not validation, exception handling for the failed validation and return the data in any format. So here we have a very simple message with a just exception to string, and it's okay. But for real life use case, probably you should return maybe the list of fields that failed the validation. So it's easier to understand what went wrong.
Yes, yes. Totally agree. Yes. Okay. So seems like yeah. Let's just check that validation can be passed. So yeah, everything is good and yeah, 201 again. Okay. So much better now. Um, do we have something left?
I'm not sure. Validation. Yeah, we just probably should mention that if you develop something for the production, there should be security in place. It's just too big for us to cover today. But yeah, there is a Spring security framework that is really great. It's easy to set up. And yeah, always protects all your endpoints, even if they are protected by the network. So if they're not accessible from the outside, in case of the breach, they will be accessible. So it's much better to just protect everything and think about it later.
Yes. Totally agree.
And for that, yeah, I just wanted to say that I personally prefer to have a mapping on the controller side. So we get student create DTO, and on the controller side, we can transfer it to our domain model to just student, save it, get student back, and then put its fields to another model, student response DTO, and not to let the service layer to know about these DTOs. And
It's actually another
uh,
approach.
probably the last thing from my side. One more great benefit of the DTO approach is that you can place any kind of validation on it, and your domain object doesn't need to know about this validation. So in one case, we may require not now first name. In other cases, we are okay with now first name. And you have different DTOs with different validation, and it's just so much easier than to have only one object.
Yep. And your let's say client validation can be different in comparison with database validation. So also point here.
Yeah, we actually have two more questions. Could you add a couple of words about versioning? Great question, by the way. And it's a thing that we can improve definitely there.
Yeah. So what do you think about API actually? API word. So I
Uh,
don't like it, but I have seen in production that a lot of services are configured like this.
I usually write it, but I don't think that it's crucial here.
Yeah, so API is not let's say
Not required.
yes, it's not required. It can be placed here, but versioning is super important because yeah, actually in my current project we have service with 5 different versions, so 5 different APIs because we have different downstreams, etc. So yeah, so. And it's only, let's say, the best place is to place it here in controller, not in some, let's say, base class, parent class, because versioning can be different for different controllers.
Yeah, so when you need to create another version of your controller, you just copy paste the class, give it another name, and change the endpoint to v2, v3, etc. And yeah, maybe at the very beginning when you write your controllers, you don't think about versioning. You think that you don't need it, but it's much easier to write this v1 and have the versioning enabled from the very beginning than to add it later, which may be more complex.
Yes, totally agree. Let's check it. Yep, everything works.
So yeah, great question. Thanks for it. And the second question, should we create a separate request DTOs for every request, post, put, patch, etc.?
Well, good question.
I can try to answer it how I see it.
Okay.
In my opinion, you should create different DTOs if you need them. If your three endpoints use the same set of fields, so the same validation, then why would you create three identical objects and maintain them? Just create one and use it. And if you need to change one field in one of these endpoints, then you can copy this DTO and yeah, change the fields there. Or you can extend DTOs. I had it on my previous projects and I liked this approach. So we could have like student-based DTO with the main fields that are present in all DTOs, and then all extensions, so they just add fields that they need. I don't say that it's the best approach, but it's good in my opinion.
Yeah. Actually, I think that it depends. It really depends. I can imagine both approaches. Let's say approach one with let's say DTO per method, or maybe, or even I don't know, DTO per endpoint, maybe for some reason. But there can be one DTO. So yeah, I would say it's two different approaches. Both have their pluses, minuses, advantages, disadvantages. But yeah, actually, I actually maybe prefer if you have good mapping architecture in your project. So if we're talking about Mapstract or other mapping framework, then you can use DTO per maybe DTO per endpoint, because using Abstract and good interface hierarchy, mapping all these DTOs to entities will be easy for you. So you will not end up in some DTO hell. So
Yeah, but if you need to add one field to the DTO, you will have to add it in 15 different classes, and it may be a bit tedious.
Yep. It's actually a minus, which I was talking about. So
Yeah, and we have another question. Last one. If we have two requests that differ in one field, should we create a separate DTO for each one, or should we just ignore one field? And what if there is two field difference? And is extending the best option here? I would say yes, I would probably implement it using the extending DTOs. But I would like to say that ignoring that field difference is a very bad approach. So if you have both required fields in the DTO, and in one case you have one field set and another case another field set, it's the same situation as we had with the password. Someday you will forget to set it to null, or you will accidentally use it and save to the database, and you will corrupt your data. You will not find very fast why did you do it. So in my opinion, DTOs should only have that fields that are required for this endpoint.
Yes, I totally agree with your statement. I actually prefer to create two entirely separated DTOs because
Good approach too.
this introducing such hierarchy, if you're extending one DTO from another, yeah, I have seen situations when after some time, after some development, they started to be entirely different, and
Yeah,
but you still
but
have this relations.
yeah,
It's dangerous.
in case if they become completely different, you just make them two different classes. So I don't see many problems there. And yeah, let's probably drop this topic. I think both approaches are okay. And yeah, let me check one last time the chats. No questions here, no questions there. So yeah, 30 seconds of the commercial. I remind you that we have a free Java Online School, MJC.school, that goes from the very basics of Java, how to write the main methods, and up to modern frameworks where you can use what you learned today, and clouds, CI/CD, so everything that you should know to become a junior developer. Enroll for free today or tomorrow, but better today. Why wait? MJC.school. Okay, I don't see any more questions, so I think we should be wrapping up. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. I will be waiting for you next week. We will have interesting events. We will discuss what is a front-end development and with a front-end developer, and what back-end developer should know about it to communicate better. And so I will post. Yeah, I will make a post on YouTube and in Slack, and where you can ask your questions if you would like to learn something about front-end development. And yeah, thanks, Ivan, again for the great presentation. And yeah, see you the next week.
Yep, you guys. Bye bye.